Good day, grade 11 students. This is again Sir Archie Olarve and welcome to the video tutorial for our subject this second semester. So for this chapter, we're going to have the discussion about matter and its property. So this chapter will give us an overview about the nature of matter. So lesson 1 will introduce the different definition of matter, the general properties of matter, states of matter, and lastly is the different classifications of matter. And for our first lesson, we're going to have the introduction to matter. And before we proceed with the discussion proper, let us have first the different lesson objectives. So what are the different lesson objectives that you are expected to know and to come up at the end of this video tutorial? So in this lesson, you are expected to first is know the definition of matter. Second is to know the different philosophers that contribute to the early beliefs about matter. Third is to know John Dalton's atomic theory. Fourth is to know the three major physical states of matter. Fifth is to familiarize with the additional states of matter. And lastly is to know the general properties of matter. So first, let us have the nature and states of matter. So the modern knowledge of matter as being composed of atoms and of still smaller fundamental particles, actually it resulted from a long history of suppositions, logical thinking, and experimentation. So katulad ng mga pinag-usapan natin on the first semester of our subject Earth Science, no, the early philosophers and scientists are actually curious about many things. And one of the curiosity or the things that they were curious of is what makes up um, the substances and everything that they can see. And then from that curiosity, so nagkaroon sila ng logical thinking and analyzation, pero hindi pa pwede na magstay lang or magstop lang tayo doon sa logical thinking. That is why, no, through the help of the scientists, so they have different experimentations. So yung modern knowledge natin about matter that we have now, it actually went for a long period of time na talagang dumaan yun sa sobrang daming proseso. Okay, and with that, so let us have the particulate nature of matter. But before, what do we mean by particulate nature? So when we say particulate nature, so it is also called as the minute nature of matter. And when we say minute, this talks about the small or tiny nature of matter, because we all know that matter cannot be seen by the naked eye. And with this concept about the particulate nature of matter, the first thing we need to understand is we need to familiarize ourselves with the early philosophers that contributed to the formulation of the concept about matter. And who are these early philosophers? So let us have first Anaximenes. So Anaximenes, he believed and he asserted that it was actually the air that was the primal element. When we say primal element, so ito yung building block ng lahat ng mga nakikita natin. And also, we have Thales of Miletus wherein he believed that it is actually water that was the primal element of all the things. And then we have Heraclitus wherein he believed and he asserted that it was not actually the air or water, but it is actually the fire that is the primal element. While on the other hand, we have Empedocles wherein he believed that the four fundamental elements are earth, fire, water, and air. But the problem about these ideas is the fact that when these materials are broken down, when the earth, fire, air, and water are broken down, they never resemble the what we call fundamental elements. And when we say again fundamental elements, ibig sabihin, hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-break down into smaller fragments. So wala ka nang pwede pang makita or makuha from that fundamental element. On the other hand, these ideas give rise to an important concept now known as the law of constant proportions, which states that all things of the same type have the same proportions of elements that compose them. And in the other hand, so a new theory emerged around 440 BCE when Greek philosophers named Leucippus, together with his student Democritus, wondered what would happen to a piece of gold if it is cut indefinitely. So as you can recall, Leucippus and Democritus was already tackled during our first semester So during the discussion about the different theories regarding the origin of the universe, wherein they actually founded the school of atomism, right? And then na-curious sila, no, what would happen if a piece of gold is actually cut indefinitely? And then the two philosophers concluded after they've conducted yung experiment, they concluded that there must be a smallest unit of gold that cannot be further broken down without it ceasing to be a gold. And they called this unit atomos, which means uncuttable. So yun nga, napag nilay-nilayan nila, and then they found out na baka meron pa na yung gold mismo na nakikita nila, it can actually be cut indefinitely, and then yung pinaka-small na particle na yon, so tinawag nila yon na atomos, which means uncuttable. So definitely, kinat nila yon definitely hanggang sa dumating sila sa point ng kanilang experiment na hindi nila nakat yun. And nung hindi nila nakat, so tinawag na nila ngayon yung portion na yon or yung segment na yon na atomos, or again, meaning uncuttable. So after that conclusion, they found out the 5 principles of their atomic theory, which are here. So first is all matter is made up of atoms that are too tiny to be seen by the naked eyes. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo talaga siya kayang makita using your naked eye. They cannot be broken down also further into smaller portions kasi nga uncuttable na sila. And all forms of matter result from the coming together or breaking apart of a specific atom. And the atoms are in constant motion rather around an empty space called the void. So ang atom is hindi lang siya in a stationary na lugar, kundi siya ay patuloy na gumagalaw-galaw, and that is actually in constant motion, in continuous movement on an empty space called again void. Next, number 3 is atoms are completely solid, meaning the particles and molecules of atoms are really compacted. Alright? And number 4, atoms are uniform, meaning they do not have internal structure. Okay, number 5, atoms come in different shapes and sizes. So these are again the 5 main principles of Leucippus and Democritus' atomic theory. And now, let us continue our discussion regarding the early philosophers. So next philosopher we have Epicurus of Samos, wherein Epicurus of Samos popularized the idea of atomism, which believes that matter is made up of atoms, which are indivisible, indestructible particle. And then he further enhanced the theory by proposing that different types of atoms have different weights, and that all atoms have the same speed regardless of its size. And next philosopher is Aristotle. So Aristotle agreed with Empedocles that all matter was made up of 4 classical elements in varying proportions. And in addition, he further suggested that one element could be transformed into another, a pioneering idea in the field of alchemy. So alchemy is a pseudoscience wherein when we say pseudoscience, that is a false science, wherein dito kasi sa alchemy naniniwala sila na yung isang substance can transform into another substance. Example nito is ang gold di umano, okay, under ng alchemy ay nagmula sa mga bronze. So as time goes by, itong bronze na to pwede siyang maging gold. So ganun yung idea under the alchemy. And another thing about Aristotle's idea is that he added a 5th element called the aether, which supposedly made up of matter that are found outside the earth and moon. Thus, this theory was recognized as the continuous theory, which asserted that matter can be divided indefinitely without changing the fundamental characteristics of its material. But the problem about the early philosophers' idea is that it has the issue, okay, that their idea was actually based on logic. Early philosophers did not have the methods or the instruments to prove or disprove their claims, because actually ayun nga, based lang yun sa logic. So kung ano lang yung sa tingin nila is yun yung tama, sasabihin lang nila yun and ipopropose nila yun. But as the new experimental methods were developed and the scientific method flourished, the theory of atom, despite having much initial opposition, came to be correct. So the flaws na na-mention ng mga early philosophers na correct yun due to the advancement and enhancement of the experimental methods as well as to the flourishing of the scientific method. And because of the new experimental methods and scientific method, so we have now the modern knowledge about matter. So what is this modern knowledge about matter all about? So by the later part of the 19th century, the atomist idea that atoms were indivisible were disproved when scientists discovered the what we call subatomic particles. And this new idea or knowledge stimulated the growth of new fields of sciences and technology that continue to progress up to the planet. And there is this man that was really famous about his idea about the modern knowledge about matter. And who is this? So he is actually John Dalton in the year 1808, wherein John Dalton is an English school teacher and an amateur meteorologist who proposed that atomic theory of matter based from the work of many early philosophers and scientists. With this, he is regarded as the father of chemical theory in recognition of the importance of his atomic theory to the development of chemical knowledge. And from that, John Dalton proposed the what we call atomic theory made by him. So what is this Dalton's atomic theory all about? So actually it states the following. First, all matter is composed of tiny indivisible particles called atoms. Second, all atoms of a particular element are identical, but the atoms of one element differ from the atoms of any other element. Each element has unique atoms. For example, the atoms of hydrogen is different from the atoms of helium, or the atoms of helium is different from the atoms of carbon, and so on and so forth. Take note, each element has unique atoms. And third is atoms of different elements combine with each other in certain whole number proportions to form compounds. Just for example is water. Okay, with its chemical compound H2O is actually a combination of one atom of oxygen and two atoms of hydrogen. So that is all about Dalton's atomic theory. So that ends our discussion regarding the part 1 of the video tutorial for our subject. Okay, so if you have questions and clarifications, and if there are things that are unclear to you, so for questions, clarifications, contact me at any of this contact information. And as a reminder once again, from 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31, so when you eat or drink or do anything else, always do it to honor God. So God bless you, grade 11 students. So feel free to personal message me if there are things that are unclear to you. See you on our Zoom meeting this week. God bless.